All right, let's jump right in. Welcome, everyone. Today's explainer is designed as a critical risk strategy briefing specifically for this expert committee. Now, speaking to you as a senior auditor, my main goal today is to consult with you on how AI is just fundamentally transforming financial forecasting, and more importantly, how we govern the unprecedented risks coming along for the ride. We're actively shifting from human-limited evidence systems to these massive AI-augmented decision ecosystems, and well, we've got to be prepared for what that actually means. To put things into perspective, corporate AI investment hit a staggering $252.3 billion in 2024 alone. That is a massive number. But here's the wild paradox we're facing. Despite this absolute flood of capital, somewhere between 60 to 80% of companies report essentially zero material financial impact. Basically, we're dealing with a massive maturity gap. The technology is out there, sure, but strategic integration is severely lagging behind, and that's leaving institutions exposed to some entirely new systemic vulnerabilities. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover AI and financial forecasting, global AI regulations, navigating those tricky black box risks, the AI maturity matrix, auditing financial AI systems, and finally, future AI governance scenarios.
Okay, let's start with Section 1, AI in financial forecasting, from time series to deep learning. There is a really stark contrast in how we approach financial data now. Traditional time series forecasting relies on historical data and rigid statistical models. It's static. It's kind of like driving while only looking in the rearview mirror. But AI-driven predictive analytics, that uses neural networks and long short-term memory networks, or LSTMs. These learning-based models don't just draw straight lines. They capture incredibly complex nonlinear patterns. AI essentially behaves as a massive multiplier. It radically multiplies our forecasting capabilities for sure, but it also multiplies our operational risks right along with it. So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, financial institutions are using predictive analytics for cost-efficient operations, highly dynamic reporting, and predicting liquidity needs. But a real game changer is identifying financial anomalies. Think about real-world platforms like EY's Helix GL Anomaly Detector or PwC's Aura. These machine learning systems process entire massive data sets in real time. They can detect subtle irregularities and fraud risks that our traditional sampling methods would completely miss. It's basically like looking for a needle in a haystack, except the AI just burns down the haystack and hands you the needle.
Moving right along to Section 2, Global AI Regulatory Approaches and the Cross-Border Compliance Challenge. Now, when we look at international frameworks, we immediately run into a massive cross-border compliance headache. We simply do not have a harmonized global system. The EU is taking an ex-ante approach, meaning they regulate before harm occurs. The US is ex-post and market-led, regulating after the fact. China treats AI as state-driven infrastructure, and a lot of other Asian nations are adopting these agile, soft law frameworks. If you are auditing a multinational institution right now, this highly fragmented puzzle is literally your compliance nightmare.
Let's quickly zoom in on the two main contrasting philosophies. You have the EU's precautionary approach, which really hammers down on fundamental rights, strict documentation, and accountability. On the flip side, the US market-led model prioritizes speed and the rapid growth of the big tech ecosystem. We're certainly not taking sides here, but as auditors, we absolutely have to recognize this tension. It creates this narrowing window where rapid tech innovation is threatening to just totally outpace governance, leading to a very severe risk of regulatory obsolescence. Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, navigating black box risks and the threat of opacity. Okay, we hear the term black box thrown around a lot, but what is it really? These are complex algorithms that give us incredibly accurate predictions, but they completely hide their internal logic. We literally can't see the data pathways. So why did the AI flag this specific transaction? Why did it deny that credit application? If we don't know the why, we are facing what's called epistemic risk. Without that transparency, we run the very real danger of automating flawed reasoning at scale.
The operational and ethical threats here are honestly quite severe. The biggest one, automation bias. It is so easy for professionals to just blindly trust the AI's output and switch their own brains off, leading to a total loss of critical human judgment. Add to that the risk of hidden algorithmic discrimination from bad training data, zero accountability when things inevitably go wrong, and a scary level of vendor dependency on just a handful of big tech providers. This is exactly why integrating human validation into model outputs isn't just a nice to have, it's an absolute necessity.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, the AI maturity matrix, from pilots to strategic production.
So, how do we actually get from risky little pilot projects to full-blown integrated production systems? We trace it through these 5 stages. A lot of entities start out at level 1, ad hoc, isolated, and highly experimental. It's risky. The goal is to build up your governance structures so you can safely scale through level 3 and eventually hit level 5, where your AI is finally a fully integrated, optimized, and strategic system.
And when you map those maturity stages directly against your operational risk dimensions, a really clear pattern pops out. At level 1, everything is flashing red. It's all high risk. As you scale to level 3, things become a bit more manageable. But look closely at level 5. Even when your systems are completely optimized, your ethical risk never drops to 0. It hovers at medium-low. The takeaway? Highly advanced systems still carry residual ethical risks. You literally cannot set and forget this stuff. It requires permanent oversight. All right, getting into the practical toolkit. Section 5, Auditing Financial AI Systems, Actionable Governance and Scoring. This right here is your step-by-step audit checklist. To mitigate systemic risks and handle that vendor dependency we talked about, you have to explicitly define your AI strategy first. You need robust risk management, you have to verify compliance with things like the EU AI Act and GDPR, and you absolutely must audit your data quality so you can actually trace those model outputs. And tying back to that automation bias threat, you have to ensure strong human oversight mechanisms are baked right into the deployment workflow. But how do you actually measure if this adoption is successful? You need very clear KPIs. Obviously, track your ROI versus deployment costs, and look for a real reduction in manual processing time. But for governance, you need to know exactly what percentage of your AI models are fully documented. What's the incidence rate of model drift? And maybe most importantly, are your people actually completing their AI upskilling programs? Because at the end of the day, the tech is only as good as the humans overseeing it. Now, when you run this scoring framework on an entity, this is the number you need to be hyper aware of. If the internal AI maturity score averages between 0.0 and 2.0, that institution is sitting squarely in the high-risk zone. They're likely running completely undocumented pilot projects with massive epistemic risk. If you see the score, it signals an immediate need for auditor intervention before a systemic failure happens. And finally, we arrive at Section 6, Future AI Governance Scenarios and Strategic Foresight. To help you anticipate what's coming, we've synthesized 3 potential future scenarios. In a controlled AI environment, you've got strong governance and human oversight, keeping risks low to moderate. In a market-driven scenario, private actors totally dominate, which spikes your dependency risks and can lead to a real loss of institutional sovereignty. And then there's the fragmented environment, uneven global implementation that just breeds massive inefficiencies and compliance blind spots. Understanding these is absolutely vital for future-proofing your strategies. So I'm going to leave the committee with this one final, provocative thought to chew on. As we rush headfirst from basic automation into incredibly complex, opaque decision ecosystems, you have to ask yourselves, are your current audit frameworks actually robust enough to govern the black box algorithms of tomorrow? Because remember, it is not just about adopting AI. It's about governing it before it governs you. Thanks so much for your time today.